What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Well, I'll give you one. I mean, the standard at LSU is to win a national championship. I mean, they had three coaches in this decade, and they've all won national championships. I mean, and the worst one of the three had the best team of the three in Ed Ogeron. But I mean, the Brian Kelly thing, the floor felt so high. Even if it's like, oh, even if you told me he never won a natty, I'd be like, he's going to have a bunch of like 10, 11 win seasons. And it's like, what if they win 8 this year? I mean, just look at the schedule every year in the SEC. We saw last year a couple games, they just fell apart. You'd probably have a better feel for the roster, but everyone, I've known Doug Nussmeier for 20 years. His son has become, I mean, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, a really, really good player. We know their roster is always loaded, but like, I watched that SEC show. I'm like, there is a chance. And I've always believed this regions in college football matter in terms of where you're coaching and where you're from. Urban was an outlier. Urban could have coached in Alaska and won national championships. But most guys, Southern guys thrive in the South. West Coast guys have thrived historically in the West Coast. The Northeast guys, it's like it's hard to be an outsider in the South when you're not winning. And it feels like Brian Kelly, like, what if they go 8-9 wins and don't make the playoffs this year? Obviously the money thing, like you just factored in, but it'd be a colossal failure so far, correct?
Yeah, so I think the two most alarming things about Kelly entering this year at LSU is we're coming off a year where they couldn't run the ball, they couldn't play defense. So to go back to your initial point, if you were to tell me he's not going to win a national title, okay, at least they're going to be able to run the ball and play good defense. They did neither of those last year. So it's kind of slid further and further away from what you would think the identity of a Brian Kelly team would be. All right, let me tell you what happened with him at LSU. Give me like 2 minutes on this. When he got to LSU, yeah, he was an outsider. So was Nick Saban when he got to LSU. Saban understood the importance of harnessing Louisiana. It's the first 10 priorities on his to-do list. Fill this building with people who know Louisiana, fill my staff with people who can recruit Louisiana, put a fence up around Louisiana, and just keep all the talent in state, and we'll win a title. And that's exactly what they did, and they won a title. Brian Kelly came in, and I'm told he's been pretty remorseful about this internally since then. He came in, and I don't know if it was ego, I don't know if it was hubris, I don't know what it was. He viewed his way, his formula to win, as a formula that can be copied and pasted anywhere. And it's not so much about fitting. It's not so much about unique geographical culture. What won at Notre Dame will win at LSU. And he got to the point where it was almost like, you want to bet? You want to test my theory? Watch and see. And he flushed the program of Louisiana influence. He flushed a lot of people out of that building that were from Louisiana, some of it just for the sake of doing it. And so what happens when you do that? If you win, no one will care. But the moment that it doesn't take off like a forest fire, you are going to be the absolute scorn of everybody on every message board, every talk radio show, because they know. They know because people from Louisiana, when they get fired, they're still in Louisiana and they talk. And so they had a program that was regressing year over year, and they had none of their people in the building hardly. And so what happened is, administratively, even above his head, he was sort of given an ultimatum: you better course correct this. And there were certain non-negotiables. And I'll tell you, one of them was Austin Thomas coming in as his general manager. And people don't need to know who that name is, but I'm telling you, he's one of the best GMs in the country. Came back there from Ole Miss. He is a Louisiana guy. I'm in that building at least once or twice a year. There are people from Louisiana in that building again. They hired a great defensive staff last year, sort of what Lincoln did at LSU. It just takes a year or two. So I think they've made the right moves. I think he's made the right moves. I think there's a very, very striking parallel between the trajectory of Brian Kelly's LSU and the trajectory of Lincoln Riley's USC. They made poor decisions hiring at the outset. They suffered the consequences. They course correct 2 or 3 or 4 years in. The big story is, are they going to be given time to let that new root system take? Because you are in very short supply of patience in this sport 4 years into your tenure. And that's not even unfair. It's not unfair for those to be the expectations at USC or LSU. So That's what happened at LSU, and they're still trying to get back on track from that.
You don't need to sink a 30-foot putt to score big this weekend. Just fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app and take your shot at the green, the kind with dollar signs. Whether you're a diehard golf fan like myself or just in it for the Sunday drama, DraftKings has everything you need to make the round a little more exciting. Live bets, prop plays, and odds boosts. Here's the thing. Are you new to betting on golf? You can bet on the winner. You can bet on a guy to top 5. You can bet on a guy to top 10. My bet last week, I'm going to roll over again. I got Scotty to win, and I parlayed that with Tommy Fleetwood and Ben Griffin, 2 top 10. I think if you want to have a little action on Scotty, he was 1 missed putt away from being in the playoffs. We know Fleetwood's not going to win, but he's going to be in the mix. Ben Griffin is hot right now. One other guy, Cam Young. So between Cam Young, Tommy Fleetwood, and Ben Griffin, I like those guys to top 10, and I think Scotty Scheffler gets it done. So any sort of combination with those guys this week, I'm fired up on. Take your swing at winning some dough this week. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. So if we just polled people in the South, Texas would feel like a lock to go to the playoffs. I'd say most people pick Georgia. Is that fair to be a playoff?
I would say Texas, Georgia, some combo of 1-2, Bama, LSU, some combo of 3-4.
Okay. So, there are going to be teams like South Carolina. Florida's got some high hopes. I wanted to ask you about the quarterback situation. I watched the SEC show, and I didn't watch that much South Carolina last year. Obviously, you can see Sellers, big-time athlete. His story about getting injured kind of makes some sense how he ends up in South Carolina. DJ, you felt like I was hearing about this guy, and I'm not even a diehard recruiting guy. 16 years old. He's a highly touted, big-time player. The John Mateer. So from a quarterback standpoint, DJ Lagway, all of a sudden, if he is fantastic, that team could be 9-10 wins.
Yes. They played the toughest schedule in the country and could still do that. You are hitting on what I think is the biggest story in that league. And that is, for the first time in a long time, the tier 2 of the SEC consists of like half a dozen teams that could reasonably win the conference. They have varying degrees of percentage chance to win the conference that you never would have said 5 or 6 years ago. You're talking about Florida there. Florida, DJ Lagway has a chance to be the best player in the country this year. He is that talented. He's that skilled. His deep ball accuracy, on top of just the athleticism he gives you with his legs, if he can stay healthy, which is the biggest concern in Gainesville right now, he's had shoulder and calf issues. If he can stay healthy, that can be an electric offense. And I'll tell you this, man, you think about that and you think, ooh, Florida, electric offense, score 45 a week. Maybe they don't come out of the gate hot. The follow-up to Florida, the reason I believe in them as being more than just some paper tiger type pretender is they could win a game 21-19 the first few weeks of the season if they need to. They're great along the lines of scrimmage. They got really good tailback and offensive line depth. Defensive personnel front 7 matches up with anyone in the conference. So if DJ's not red hot on fire out of the gate, I think they'll be okay. I picked Mateer to win the Heisman. So that's how high I am on John Mateer at Oklahoma. I think he will fundamentally transform what they do. You're going to have some folks watch highlights of him in practice. They're going to say, ooh, I don't like that arm angle. I don't like that release. Ooh, look at the lack of quality of competition he played last year. All notable. I'm just telling you, I think he's going to be a stud. I think he had like 800-something yards rushing last year, and it's his arm talent I'm most impressed with, so he's a true dual threat. A&M will not be what I just said at quarterback. They'll be a lot better in the vertical passing game, but they will be a team that makes no mistake what their identity is. They're going to run the ball on you. They're going to run the ball some more. Mike Elko's got both hands around the throat of that defense after the way they finished last year. He will not allow that to be a repeat issue. They're going to play ugly football. It will not be aesthetically pleasing, but that's the kind of team that just hangs a 10-2 on you out of nowhere because they brutalized everyone. I also love that recruiting in college football in general has had to account for up-tempo, spread. Your linebackers are smaller. Your defensive personnel in the aggregate is smaller. And every now and then, someone just throws out an offensive line that averages 330 across the front and 3 tailbacks who are bruisers, and they take advantage of that. That's what A&M can do this year. South Carolina, yeah, they were 9-3 last year. Dude, they're 2 plays away from 11-1 last year.
I know.
They got a lot.
That SEC show, they easily could have beat LSU.
They got the shaft in that game, man. I'm not one to throw officials under the bus, but they got the shaft in that game. But here's the problem. We had Beamer on the show in the spring, and I said, does your building have a firm grasp that as great as last year was, they don't get to carry any of that over? Like, momentum is so stupid in college football. People talk about carrying momentum over year to year. It's fake. It doesn't exist. You start 0-0 in the fall, and they got to replace a lot of wide receiver talent, 5 NFL departures from the defense. And they recruit okay. They don't recruit at the level where they just seamlessly backfill that stuff. But they could have the best quarterback in the country in LaNorris Sellers.